Hi everyone, welcome back. We're up to Unit 5 of Acer's Orange Book, Section 1. So this is questions 22 to 26 to do with Elizabeth Bishop's poem of Sandpiper. Now, before I get into the questions, I just want to do a quick comprehension check on poetry. So if you're someone that struggles with poetry, which I believe a lot of people do because majority of us do not read poems on a daily basis, as you're reading a poem, or when you get to the end of it, just do a quick comprehension check so you understand what's going on. So the first question I want to ask you, and maybe pause the video and answer it, is what is a sandpiper? Can anyone tell me what a sandpiper is? Okay, a sandpiper is a bird. Hopefully you got that from the poem. Specifically, it says, "Poor bird, he is obsessed." Or you could have got it through the imagery beforehand. Okay, so we know that this poem is about a bird. What is the ocean the beach is on? Pause the video. Can anybody tell me what is the ocean or the sea? I'm not entirely sure which one it is that the beach is on. It's the Atlantic. Stanza 3 says where the Atlantic drains. So we're on a beach, we're a bird on a beach draining into the Atlantic. And then question 3, what is the roaring alongside in the first stanza? Pause the video, have a little think. The roaring alongside is, of course, the ocean. So the reason I've asked these questions, and I asked these before I even looked at the actual Acer questions, is just to kind of gauge comprehension. If you did not get the answers to any of those three, then you really need to go back and read the poem again and just make sure you're clear on what's happening. So yes, what I'd recommend is go through the poem and then just do a little quick summary. Okay, this poem is about a bird, they're on a beach, it's in the Atlantic. You obviously don't need that detail, but just kind of cement it a little bit, because I think one of the difficulties of poetry is we don't really know what they're about. And I am aware that, in this instance, the sandpiper and the bird is a metaphor for something else. I get that. But if you try and go straight to what the metaphor is, you can get a little bit lost. So just start with the basics. What is this poem about? It's a bird. He's on a beach and he's just living his life on the beach. Hopefully that just quick comprehension check should make answering these questions a bit easier. Okay, question 22. According to the poem, the sandpiper, so the bird, regards the sea as. So, A, a threat. No, because he says that every so often the world is bound to shake. So he knows that the world's going to shake. He just accepts that the world will shake from the ocean. It's not really a threat. He just kind of gets on with his life. Untroubling. Yes, that is the correct answer because it specifically shows that the bird is obsessed. And I'm just trying to find the exact phrase. We know that the ocean is coming in and out and he's not troubled by it. Oh yeah, the tide is higher or lower. He couldn't tell you which. So he's not troubled by the tide, which is why it's untroubling. C is distracting in the same vein. Nope, poor little bird. He is obsessed, and his beak is focused. He's looking for something, something, something. His beak is focused. He's preoccupied. He's very determined to seek whatever he wants. I suspect food. So the ocean isn't distracting. And then D, the source of life. Now this isn't mentioned. However, if you are someone if you think that all poems and all questions about poetry are some big metaphor for something else, you might have gone with D because it just sounds like bigger picture. But no, it's not that. I think that people tend to overcomplicate poetry. So just try and keep it simple. Okay, question 23. To the speaker, the sandpiper first appears. So first appears, we're looking at the first stanza. The first stanza is that first paragraph, those first 4 lines. And in the first stanza, it says, the roaring alongside he takes for granted, and that every so often the world is bound to shake. He runs to the south, da 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 da. So the answer is D. He's disconcertingly unaware of the larger surroundings. So it's a tiny little bird on a beach, the crashing ocean around him, and he just takes for granted that that's the world, and he runs to the south in an awkward manner. So he's disconcertingly unaware of the larger surroundings. A, symbolic figure connecting land and sea. Again, I know with poetry it's very easy to go to like the symbolism behind stuff, but there's not really any evidence that he's symbolic in this stanza. I think that question's just, that answer's in there just to kind of, oh, it's poetry, it has to be symbolic in some way, so we're going to put symbolism in there. It's not true. We know he's not distracted by his surroundings, which is B, because we've already eliminated that in the previous question, and at the interface between real and mythical worlds. Again, that answer is in there for somebody who doesn't know much about poetry and just thinks poetry is confusing or complicated and it has to do with the bigger picture. Again, not true. Question 24. The impression that the sandpiper is in a state of controlled panic is reinforced through, okay, A, the regular rhyme. So the second and the fourth lines of each stanza do rhyme. But the rhyme isn't there to reinforce a state of controlled panic. The rhyme is there because it adds rhythm and it adds musicality. If you actually look at the rhyming words themselves, nothing in those rhyming words reinforces that idea of controlled panic. Rhyme is used in poems for specific reasons. It's usually rhythm and musicality, remembering that lots of poetry is meant to be read. But rhyme can also add effect and it can also add emphasis, but that's not the case in this one. Okay, so B, the images of the sea's magnitude. So these reinforce the state of panic, roaring alongside of interrupting water and of like ominous presence of the ocean, but they don't reinforce the state of controlled panic. C, the repetition of words and phrases such as he runs, and something. So that's correct. So runs is panic, but he's looking for something which is controlled. So he's running around frantically, but he's looking for things. That's why it's controlled panic. And then D, the effect of uncertainty. So controlled panic is not equal to uncertainty, which is why that is wrong. 25. So the allusion to the poet Blake in line 4. Now, when I read the poem and I saw Blake, I know that Blake is a poet. I could not name you a single one of his poems. So don't get freaked out if they reference another poet. It's just saying there's been an allusion to another poet. What does that do? They don't expect you to know what Blake wrote about and therefore Blake's poetry. It's not like, oh, we alluded to Shakespeare's Hamlet and you need to know about Hamlet in order to answer this question. That's not the case. All we know is that there's another poem being referred to. So what does this mean? Well, poetry it's creative, it's artistic, it's refined, it's inspiring, and then the sandpiper's reaction is controlled panic and obsession, like poor bird, he is obsessed, which is why the answer is B, association between creativity, which is the poetry, and obsessiveness. You could, in theory, allude to maybe Monet or Vincent van Gogh or, George R.R. Martin if you wanted to, someone creative, and you would have the same answer. All it is doing is referring between the creative intensity in the form of poetry and obsessiveness in the form of the bird. So A is that the poetic spirit is engulfing power. There's no reference to a spirit, so nope. C, the capacity of the great artist to be uniquely inspired by nature. This is wrong because I have no idea what Blake wrote about. I don't know if Blake was a great artist. I don't know what he wrote about. I don't know if he wrote about nature. I have no idea. You're not meant to know that, so no, that is wrong. And D is the great genius becomes petty and crazy at a lesser incarnation. So in other words, the bird is a lesser version of Blake, ? No, that's not given to us at all. And again, I have no knowledge about Blake to make that conclusion. So again, if you see a reference to Blake or Shakespeare or Orwell, it might freak you out initially, but remember, you're not meant to know that. You're not meant to know who Blake is. Blake serves as a general poet. That is his role here. 26. Which of the following comments about Elizabeth Bishop's poetry best characterizes the particular quality of sandpiper? So, sandpiper features A, shifts of physical scales, because we talk about roaring, we talk about the Atlantic, which is a huge ocean, and then we talk about the millions of teeny tiny grains that the sandpiper is looking for. So we're seeing shifts of physical scale, water and sand and grains, all of them in one poem. B is wrong, the engulfing power of the world. Well, the world and the bird aren't engulfed. The bird is never engulfed in this situation. There's no reference to engulfing. It's just wrong. The dignified frailty of the human observer. What human observer? Like, I assume Elizabeth Bishop was observing the sandpiper, and this is how she wrote the poem, but the human observer doesn't feature in the poem. The human observer is just there. Then the long perspectives of time which dwarf the merely human. What time? What temporal? There is no reference to time or temporal or anything like that. It's a bird on a beach. And that's why at the beginning I asked those comprehension questions, so that you just bring it back. It's a bird on a beach and he's looking for something, and he's obsessed with looking for something. That's it. Don't try and overcomplicate poetry. It's already complicated enough. Okay, in the next video, we will do Unit 6, which is questions 27 to 32. As always, like, comment, subscribe. If you have any questions, comment down below. I will try my best to help you out, and I will see you in the next video.